So we've come to the end of this series that we're doing with you, and just kind of have a little wrap up, and we're going to focus it on sport. So what are your top 3 sports nutrition tips for all types of athletes?
Yeah, if I was to generalize, I would say like the first one would be to like think about your diet, kind of like you approach your training. So think about, okay, what are my goals that day and how do I change my nutrition intake and quantity based on my training volume? So basically like if I use like, your plate, for example, like if on an easy training day, like if you want to fill half of it with, vegetables and fruit and lower carbohydrate things and still get protein and some type of starch too. And then on higher training days, you almost want to switch that where half your plate is some type of really high carbohydrate food because carbohydrates provide us with an energy source. And basically when we're working on a higher intensity or long duration, we need more carbs. So I think just changing it up. And when I talk to a lot of athletes, sometimes like they might not think about that because we're creatures of habit. We get used to eating in a certain routine. But that means some days, you're eating too much and then other days you're not eating enough. So it's just like striking that balance and basically changing your eating based on your training. So yeah, and I think that applies to all athletes based on their training volume. And the second tip would be, just trying to like work with your own genetics, your own body composition, and not trying to look like other athletes. Because definitely in sport, there's a risk of, eating disorders, not eating enough, and trying to, change your body based on what other people look like.
Really? There's eating disorders in sport?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that would be kind of obvious. Like, you'd burn if you just didn't eat. So yeah, that's interesting.
It's fairly not in all sports, but definitely there's a high degree of what's called like relative energy deficiency in sport, where basically you're not meeting your energy needs. And it's been estimated that 70% of athletes are at risk for this condition, where it's basically like chronic, just not quite meeting your calorie needs each day. And primarily carbohydrates. Actually, I think that will lead into my third tip, was just making sure you're eating enough carbohydrates and healthy sources. So if the majority of the time you're getting whole grains and fruits and vegetables and dairy sources and beans, and then obviously there's room for other things that are not quite as healthy in an athlete diet because you have to meet your calorie needs overall. But definitely I think that's the most underconsumed thing that I see, at least with endurance athletes as well. So yeah.
Well, thanks very much for joining us on this journey, and thanks for helping us kind of get a better understanding and a lot of clarity in what we've talked about over the last number of weeks. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I hope that helps. Thanks.